You know, I was sitting around over the last couple of days and not really sure to do with what to do with emotions. They're up and down. Sometimes I'm sad for the things that, you know, maybe I wish I could have done with my dad, and many people that are going to be at the funeral. You know, we all pick courses in our life. Sometimes we do the wrong thing. Sometimes we have bad ideas. We go wrong places. And, you know, one thing I love about being a Christian is that God is big enough to cover those mistakes. But I was thinking about Dad and some of the stuff that happened in our past. You know, I'm a firm believer that Dad, especially, and anybody that's really a Christian, doesn't want us here weeping and howling and you know, they would want us to remember the good times. So I just want to share a couple of things with you that I was thinking about Dad. You know, time we spent on the road in the Rockies. I was very young and just learning to drive a truck, even though he didn't want me driving a truck. It was a good time with him, and we talked about regrets that he had, real very, very deep conversations I never expected to have with Dad, and things that he could have done different. And now he just wanted to do his best, and he knew, you know, he had made a mess of some things, and, you know, he really sure did have a lot of love. And just, you know, I look back now that I'm older, and I can really understand my dad better, that he really never had anybody there to show him how to do that. I didn't know Grandpa well, but I knew him a little bit, and I knew that he was not a person who conveyed a lot of, you know, lovey feelings. I remember Dad really tried, you know, he really tried. I was probably 13 the first time Dad ever said to me, "I love you." He looked like Fonzie trying to get the words out of his mouth, because that's just not the way he was raised. And so he broke that barrier for me so that I wouldn't have to deal with it when I was older. And a lot of things that he did, you know, he would often say, "Yeah, you know, don't do what I'm doing. We're going to make mistakes, do what I say." But, you know, one thing I loved about Dad is he was able to find something funny in just about everything. One of the things that I'm a lot like him is that he would seem to let little things build up, and he would get aggravated, really aggravated about little things, but then great big things could happen, and he would just handle it. He'd just be like, "Well, you know, okay." I remember one time he had like an old 55 or maybe a little older blue pickup truck, and he wanted me to back it up. And I remember I got in it, and I put the thing in reverse, but I didn't shut the door, and it backed up, and it hit a tree and bent the door completely forward. And I just slammed on the brakes, and I looked out the door back at Dad, and he just had this look on his face. He didn't even say anything. He went to say something, he just shut his mouth, and he went in the house. And I thought, I just better leave that alone. And so then he came back out later and told me it was okay, you know, we get it fixed. You know, and that was quite funny. But that's a lot of times he reacted to real, you know, what I thought was going to be really bad, he would just kind of laugh about. But I remember another time a funny thing that happened, we were going fishing. It was with Dad and me and my friend Eric Wilkie, and we were in Iowa, and he decided we were going to go fishing. And so he had a brand new pole, and he had some tackle, and he had his hat on and his jeans and stuff and a watch, and I'm telling you all this because those all come to play in a little bit. And we're going down this steep hill, and Eric and I are both, we couldn't have been 17 maybe, and he said, and I said, Dad, you know, it's real steep and it's slick, it's wet, it's early in the morning, it's wet. I mean, it was steep, and it was probably, Lord, that hill had to be 20 foot. And so, "Oh no, it's okay." He's got his cowboy boots on, as he always, you know, did so much. And man, he did. He slipped out, and his feet went out from underneath him, and it was just like he was in a shape like this, and he just kept bouncing end over end over end all the way down the hill, but he would not let go of his tackle box and his fishing poles. So by the time he comes to a stop down at the end of the hill, his hat is shoved down on his head, and it's completely sideways. His watch is halfway up his arm, shoved full of grass. And of course, you know, he couldn't keep his pants up, so they were down around his knees. And he just stood up, and he just looked up at me and Eric, and he went, "Damn!" That's all he had to say. And Eric and I were laughing. Oh, but he still had his fishing pole in his tackle box. We were laughing so hard. It was funny because we went fishing for a couple hours, and every so often Eric was way down there, and Dad was in the middle, and I was way down here. But you'd hear Eric just bust out laughing, and you'd hear Dad go, "Shut up!" and then a little while later, I'd bust out laughing just because we kept playing it over in our mind. That was very funny. That was so great. Remember one time, he says to me, the girls were young, and he said, "Hey, let's go get some rabbits for the girls." Man, they'd been just after him to get them rabbits for Easter. And so this was very funny. The girls didn't think it was funny. So we go out, we come home, we walk in the house. Dad's got this paper bag, and the girls are like, "What's that? What's that?" He's like, "Oh, I got you guys some rabbits." And they're like, "We got rabbits?" And they come running over, they tear the bag open, and we had gone and gotten frozen rabbit meat. And it's horrible. I know it's horrible, but it just it's funny. It's just funny to me. And then, I remember one time, I couldn't have been maybe 10 or 11, and man, it was just cold up in Iowa, and he had bought some snowmobiles, and so we got going, and I was just cold. I kept complaining, so he stops the snowmobile, and he gets in the back, and he lifts it up, and he's got a bottle of blackberry brandy in the seat of the snowmobile. And he's, "Okay, here, just take a little sip of this." And so, he says, "Okay." And so I took a little sip. I was like, "Ooh, that warmed up my belly. That's pretty good." He says, "Okay now." And he put it back in the seat, and we took off. And then we stopped somewhere, and he went down a hill to go to the bathroom. While when he went down the hill, I got back in there and got another drink of that blackberry brandy. And the day progressed. By the time we got about halfway wherever we were going, it was a pretty long trip, I was smashed, man. He didn't even know. He finally gets on the snowmobile. He goes, "Are you drunk?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good." And so, I guess it was because I'd fallen off the back of the snowmobile a couple of times, and it was just, I just remember that. It was very funny. And then, later, as he got older, he couldn't move around very much. All of the kids, we were talking about this a while back, about how funny it was. He'd come and sit on the couch. He couldn't get out of the couch. He'd be in the front room, and we'd hear him holler, "Steven!" and "Steven!" and we'd just, we giggling, "Cubby! DJ!" He'd just yell at somebody, and we'd go pick him up and kind of get him off the couch, and it was just a good time. And man, I was remembering, didn't that dude have some nasty feet? I mean, I'd never seen feet like that. I mean, I don't got good feet. I got this one toe that kind of looks like Dad's toe, but his whole foot looked like that. And I know that a lot of you are gonna be able to have feelings for me on this when he would ask you to pull his socks off, and that all that stuff would come just crumbling out of his feet. I mean, gee, many Christmas. And then one of the funniest memories I have is like being on the truck with him. And any of you that have ever been on the truck with him before would know that early morning Hoover gallop across the truck stop. He'd get up, and man, he'd light that cigarette, and just directly he'd take off, just high-footing it and pinching his butt cheeks up because he had to go to the bathroom. So, hey, thanks for that, Dad. That's a good inheritance too. And then, I guess the last one I'll share with you is we were out pheasant hunting. We used to do a lot of that when I was younger. And geez, we'd been just gone all day, and it was cold up there in Iowa, and snow all over. We were just frozen. Didn't get anything. And so, actually, we did get something. We were going down, and Dad says, "Oh, there!" He got his gun up, and bam, man, he shoots, and he's like, "What? Man, that thing didn't even move." And so we walk up there, and the bird was already dead. It had frozen death in the middle of the night, so he shot it. But so we were laughing about that. But in the process, we're driving home, and he's like, "Let's go get some lunch." And we look out in this field, and there's all these geese. I mean, the field is just covered with geese. And Dad's like, "Well, it's not season, and we're just gonna keep our mouths. I'm gonna shoot me. I'm taking something home." So he gets out of the car, and he gets his gun, and he's taking aim, and I got my gun, and I'm like, Dad. He's like, "What? Shh, you're gonna scare him away." I'm like, "Dad, they're not moving." He says, "Oh, it's cold. They just sit real still when it's cold." I said, No, they're not moving at all." And so he takes his gun, he puts it down, he looks, and he goes, "Get in the car, get in the car." I'm like, What? He's, "Get in the car." So he puts his gun in there, we jump in the car, we take off. I'm like, "What was that?" He goes, "Man, they were decoys. I could see the farmer over there, and he couldn't see us. He wasn't looking in our direction, but those were all decoys. He was trying to get the geese." So there we were, we almost blew away some farmers' decoys. So, well, I'm sure you guys will sit around and talk about Dad and a lot of the great times that we had with him in life. And so I look forward to seeing y'all again. Please be praying for me as I'm down here in Costa Rica. And, I just really miss everybody. I wish I could be there, but sometimes God orchestrates things, and we just can't sometimes do what we want. So, love y'all. See you later. Try to remember all the great, funny things about Dad today. Talk to you later.